simple coin in the hands of one man became a deadly tool for transmitting secrets. When FBI agents stormed his studio, the man showed no panic. Instead, he calmly asked to clean his paint palette, worried only that the colors might be ruined. To the untrained eye, he looked like nothing more than an eccentric old painter. But behind the disguise stood one of the most formidable spies of the Cold War, Rudolph Abel, born William Fisher. Known as the Man of 1,000 Faces, Abel was a master of languages, photography, and disguise. His brilliance made him one of the Soviet Union's most effective intelligence operatives. His story became the basis of Steven Spielberg's Bridge of Spies, starring Tom Hanks. Set in 1957, during the tense Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, the film explores the shadowy world of espionage, where every secret was a weapon. Tom Hanks plays James Donovan, an American insurance lawyer suddenly thrust into a world far beyond contracts and settlements. At first seen as cold and unyielding, always defending the strict letter of the law, Donovan is chosen to defend Abel, the captured Soviet spy. What begins as just another case soon draws Donovan into a high-stakes game of politics, morality, and survival. In a war fought without smoke or fire, where lives are gambled across borders, he must decide how far he is willing to go to uphold justice, and how much he is willing to risk for peace. James Donovan, called Tang Dawn here, an insurance lawyer who hasn't touched criminal law in years, suddenly finds himself in an impossible position. His firm votes unanimously that he should defend Rudolph Abel, the captured Soviet spy. Donovan's colleagues trust his skills, but the truth is, he can't refuse. The government wants this case handled properly. America must not appear to be executing men without due process. Donovan knows the truth. Whether he wins or loses, he cannot come out unharmed. In the public eye, he's already guilty, defending the enemy. His family is horrified. Neighbors whisper. Even his wife questions if he has betrayed his own country. Yet Donovan presses forward, determined to uphold the law, even when no one stands beside him. When he finally meets Abel, the spy shows calmness that unnerves him. Abel admits he was never beaten in custody, but warns Donovan not to trust anyone else. The CIA wants Abel to turn double agent. Donovan makes it clear he is not working for them. His only duty is to defend his client fairly. Abel listens quietly, almost indifferent, and finally asks for a pen, some paper, and a cigarette. At first, Donovan refuses, until Abel speaks words that strike deep. Mr. Donovan, you have men like me doing the same for your country. If they were caught, wouldn't you want them treated well? Donovan is shaken, but he understands. He begins building a defense, even though the judge is dismissive. Do you have a problem? The judge scoffs. He's a Soviet spy. Everyone knows his fate. Just do your job. But Donovan is not a man to cut corners. He demands time, 6 full weeks, to sort through the evidence. He refuses to let the trial be a formality. And in doing so, he begins walking a dangerous line between his duty as a lawyer, his loyalty as an American, and his conscience as a man. One night, Donovan realized he was being followed. The man trailing him was quick, forcing Donovan to pick up his pace. Just as the pursuer closed in, a group of passers-by briefly blocked his path, giving Donovan a chance to duck behind a car and escape. But Donovan was no spy, no agent, he was simply a lawyer. The man eventually confronted him, revealing himself as CIA. He wanted answers. What had Abel said? What secrets had been exchanged? But Donovan refused to betray attorney-client privilege. Even when pressed in the name of national security, he stood firm. Professional ethics were his line in the sand, and he would not cross it. In court, Donovan began to fight back. He argued that the FBI had only an arrest warrant, not a search warrant. Every piece of evidence found in Abel's apartment should therefore be inadmissible. The judge was irritated. Donovan was supposed to play along, not actually defend his client. To the court, Abel wasn't a man with rights. He was just an enemy, an outsider. The judge scoffed. You're a lawyer. Go sell insurance when this is over. But Donovan would not bend. At home, though, the pressure grew heavier. His son, frightened by talk of nuclear war, repeated what classmates had told him. Fill the bathtub with water before the bombs fall, because when New York is hit, everything, including their family, will melt away. His wife begged him to give up the case. Strangers on the bus glared at him with rage, calling him a traitor. To them, Donovan wasn't defending justice, he was defending the enemy. When the trial came, the jury quickly declared Abel guilty. Donovan pushed to re-examine the evidence, but the judge denied him outright. Sentencing was scheduled within days. Through it all, Abel sat quietly, expressionless, as if nothing could shake him. Late one evening, Donovan quietly offered Abel a pen and a cigarette. Abel thanked him, touched not by the gift itself, but by Donovan's rare humanity. Unlike everyone else, Donovan never once asked if Abel was truly a spy. He simply fought for his rights. That dignity reminded Abel of an old friend, and against all odds, a quiet bond began to grow between the two men. Driven by principle, Donovan refused to give up. He approached the judge privately, arguing that executing Abel would not serve America's best interest. One day, American spies might also be captured in the Soviet Union. Keeping Abel alive could make him valuable, a potential bargaining chip in the future. The judge, skeptical but intrigued, consulted higher authorities. When the verdict came, Abel was sentenced not to death, but to 30 years in prison. The courtroom erupted in outrage. People shouted, "Why don't you kill him?" Even Donovan's law partners were furious, accusing him of betrayal. But Donovan stood firm, knowing he had done what was right. Abel, calm as ever, warned him to be careful. And Abel was right, danger soon followed. That very night, shots were fired at Donovan's home. His family barely escaped unharmed. Yet when he called the police, they showed little interest in protecting him. To the world, he was a man defending the enemy. To Donovan, he was simply doing his duty. His choice felt like a heavy sentence, one he carried alone. But in truth, his defense of Abel would soon make history. The same hollow coin that Abel once used to pass secrets had a darker twin in the hands of American pilots. For the U.S. Air Force, it contained not messages but poison. If captured, the pilot could scratch himself with the hidden needle, instant death. Their reconnaissance planes carried explosives as well. Should a mission fail, the crew was ordered to trigger self-destruct, ensuring that no classified technology would ever fall into enemy hands. One such pilot was Francis Gary Powers. Trained to accept death as part of duty, he flew deep into Soviet skies on a dangerous reconnaissance mission. Meanwhile, Donovan pressed forward with his appeal to the Supreme Court. His argument was simple yet profound. Abel may be America's enemy, but he was a man serving his country, refusing to betray it even under capture. Shouldn't America prove itself greater by giving him due rights? True strength, Donovan argued, was not in vengeance, but in justice. His words resonated with a deeper truth. In a cold war of shadows where both sides sought dominance, perhaps survival itself depended on rules. Civilization advanced because of order, not chaos. If even war had laws, why should espionage not have boundaries too? Donovan's vision was radical, but it hinted at a future where enemies could be exchanged rather than destroyed. Then came the incident that would put his theory to the test. High above Soviet airspace, Powers' U-2 spy plane was struck by two missiles. The jet spiraled out of control, plummeting toward the Earth. Powers reached for the self-destruct switch but faltered, thrown violently from the cockpit before he could act. Clinging to life, he deployed his parachute. The coin with its poison needle stayed unused in his pocket. Captured alive, Powers became a bargaining chip, one that would soon put Donovan's words, and Abel's life, at the center of history. Not long after Powers' capture, the U.S. government released a statement claiming that a weather research plane had gone missing over Turkey. Officially, it was a tragic accident. In reality, everyone knew the truth. The U-2 spy plane had been shot down over Soviet airspace. The Soviets put Powers on trial swiftly and publicly, sentencing him to 10 years in prison. The irony wasn't lost on Donovan. Just as Abel had been convicted of espionage in America, Powers now faced the same fate in Moscow. The stage was set for something bigger, an exchange. Both men carried secrets too valuable to leave rotting in prison cells. Neither side could risk permanent silence. The CIA reached out to Donovan. His arguments in court about Abel's value had proven true. Now the Soviets wanted to negotiate. But there was a catch. Officially, the Soviet Union never admitted Abel was one of their spies. Likewise, they denied that East Germany was a sovereign state. That meant no government could openly negotiate. Instead, the task fell to Donovan, a private lawyer, a man who represented no one but himself. If anything went wrong, he would be abandoned. The meeting point was to be Berlin at the height of Cold War tension. The Soviets controlled most of East Berlin, with armed checkpoints everywhere. To complicate matters further, an American student had recently been arrested there, accused of political agitation. Donovan understood the danger but had no choice. When asked if he would take the mission, he didn't hesitate. He told his wife it was just a routine business trip to Scotland, then quietly boarded a plane with the CIA to Berlin. Behind the facade of diplomacy and secrecy, Donovan was about to step into the most delicate negotiation of the Cold War. The situation grew even more complicated when an American student, Frederick Pryor, called Xiao Pu here, was arrested in East Berlin. Accused of espionage, he was sentenced to death. The Soviets now had two bargaining chips, Powers and Pryor. Donovan quickly realized that Moscow might try to leverage Pryor in exchange for Abel. But the CIA was clear. Abel was the priority. The student could wait. To them, he was expendable. Donovan disagreed. He believed both men deserved a chance at freedom. Before heading into negotiations, the CIA briefed Donovan in detail. He was warned not to carry maps. Anyone caught with one would be branded a spy. He was told to memorize phone numbers, avoid drawing attention, and above all, stay far away from the Berlin Wall. If you cross it, the agent warned, they'll shoot without hesitation. The next morning, Donovan entered East Berlin through official channels, only to be harassed by local gangsters. They pretended to guide him toward the Soviet embassy, but stripped him of his coat as payment. Cold and humiliated, Donovan pressed on until he finally reached the embassy. There, he expected to meet Vogel, the East German lawyer representing Abel's family, but instead he was confronted by Soviet officials. They claimed Vogel's presence would be inconvenient. Abel's wife and family appeared briefly, further emphasizing the stakes of the exchange. Negotiations began. The Soviets suggested several compromises, but Donovan refused to budge. He demanded a direct, immediate exchange of hostages, Abel for Powers and Pryor included as well. The deputy secretary of the embassy argued that Abel had likely revealed valuable information during his imprisonment, while Powers had stayed silent. To them, this was not an equal trade. Donovan's rebuttal was sharp and unwavering. If Abel dies in an American prison, then every future Soviet spy will know that silence means death. They'll talk. But if Abel lives, if he's exchanged, your people will understand that staying loyal is their only chance at survival. It's in both our interests to make this exchange. He pressed further, warning that mistrust between their governments could spiral into disaster. The only solution was to set a precedent, to create rules where none existed, to prove that even in the Cold War, there could be order amid the chaos.